Alright guys, a couple more minutes to 1 o'clock, and I think that's going to make it the 36-hour mark. And our inverter, I think, is ready to go. Because once it gets down to 10.5 volts, you're going to see it's down to about 10.4. It should go any minute. So I would imagine if it's not blown by, sometimes they go down a little further if you're not loading them really hard. As long as the inverter senses there's good current there, sometimes we'll go below 10.5. I've seen them go down to 10.3 to 10.25 before on real low energy draws. As soon as you load it up, of course, it's going to throw out right about now. But 10.46, and before it does go, I would like to show you the amps, the ending amp crawl, which let me see. Yeah. Now these bolts in here tend to not contact or something. I don't know. And I wiggle them and then it works. Especially with just gator clamp on there. But anyway, it's pretty close. I can see what's going on. It's at yeah, it's quite a bit less now, isn't it? It was 44 at the best, at the highest. But you see, it's 45. This connection is very poor, like I've been showing you. When I try to hook that up to the amp meter. But it wasn't flickering when I had it direct drive there, so I think it's probably 430 milliamps, something like that. It's more like AC. I was using, this inverter treats the battery, the energy flowing more like AC. I was looking at this amp clamp, and that says 31.31 AC on it. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if you can see that. Well, a lot of you guys know all this. When you have a switch mode based power supply and it's drawing from the battery, there will be a certain amount of the pulses can be read as AC. So you can see my amp draw is about 430 milliamps, down from 0.5 because the battery voltage is getting so low. So we'll run it down a little bit more till 1 o'clock, right? And that will be, I believe, the 36-hour mark, because at, what was it? 3 o'clock today was the 24-hour mark. And let me get this thing tightened down, and my candle stops flickering then. See, yeah, it's still flickering a little. It could just be these cheap switch mode power supply inverters don't like corncob lights. And some of your switch mode based circuitry are anywhere from 100 to 150 to 200 kilohertz. This one is 20 kilohertz, which is fine. My Bedini is 3 kilohertz. My SSG oscillators that I build, and I'm wondering if that might be a pretty good idea to try sometime, just for experimenting. I'm sure plenty of people have. Here's the volt reading again, and we'll call it good at 1 o'clock. And I'll just chime in at 1 o'clock, which we have about 10 minutes or so here on Central Time. And let's get this on volts again. Okay, so we have a dead battery here, 10.44. When the ringer goes off, it's pretty much considered dead. I know that Luke went down to 8 volts on some of the motors running, or 9 volts or 10 volts or under, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the last little bit out. I'm going to stick with the ringer voltage on the inverter, because the next test is going to be 2 more batteries like this sitting here, and then 1 more right here with the meters in between, and this inverter. And I'll have a circuit that takes the energy from the charging battery and pass it back. We don't want to overcharge the charging battery. Now that's another day and another subject, and I'm sort of getting ahead of myself in this video. This video is about killing the battery. It's about running it down until it's dead, which is not a very good idea, really. And so this battery will receive a charge being dead. And I can't think if people talk about the battery charging up easier when it's dead or when it's half full, but there's or nearly full. But there's a place where when you're charging a battery, it's harder to charge it if you're overcharging it. I know that. So some of you guys that know what I'm talking about can chime in and talk about it. But excuse me. So when you run the 3 battery later, when we run 2 full ones over here on this side, and this dead one is over here, and this inverter is passing the energy from the 2 full ones over to the dead one in this split positive inverter hookup, we don't want the battery that's charging to overcharge, or to get past the point where it's resisting a charge. Or we want the optimum place for energy to be received into the battery and charge, and then the circuit will pass it back by taking 12 volts and throw it back to the front batteries. That's one test. Other tests, you can talk about entropy, where the inverter is pumped up on the high side with a boost converter, so it's not running on 12 volts, but it's running on 14.5, or the inverter's running on 15 volts. And there's a lot to be said about entropy. So that would help. And then that circuit would be number 1, and then number 2 would be the circuit to pass the energy back to the front batteries. So I haven't tried that. I see Dessa did it, and some guys did it on the 3 battery, and I've heard them talk about it for a couple of years, but I have never tried it. So I'm showing you at the same time. Another thing that can be done is that you can take 2 batteries over here that are completely full and 4 dead ones. And now you saw I have enough batteries. They're all the same. And we can take them in and out of the circuit. We can let them rest when we charge them, and let the ions realign so we can discharge it. We can do that too, but I think in the practical sense, like say you had a scooter going down the road with it and you had 3 batteries, it would be nice to see just extended run times on 2 batteries working through the inverter to the 3rd battery and then having some of the energy pass back, and see an extension. Or, you know, instead of 36 hours, maybe we'll see 4 weeks. That's the hope. Of course, there might be a lot of tuning that needs to be done, or circuitry in the end, to make it practical. And we're at 10.34, so it's going down quick. It was 10.4 just in the little time where I've been talking, and I got to check the clock here. So I'm going to go. The clock is going to strike 1 o'clock, and I'm going to shut it off. Okay? All right, thanks for listening, and I wish everyone well. Thank you. Goodbye.